Cue and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Cue and Review news via our Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at Cue and Review, that's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@cueandreview.com, that's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Glasgow Times recorded on Tuesday 7th of March 2023. Sport. Celtic sent Hearts warning by Charlie Nicholas as Rangers dismissed, by Aidan Smith, Digital Sport Audience and Engagement Editor. Charlie Nicholas has labelled Hearts as the biggest threat to Celtic's treble hopes as he took aim at Rangers. After Ange Postecoglou's League Cup victory over Michael Beale's outfit, Nicholas reckons the Hoops now have a huge chance of more silverware this season. But the former Celtic and Aberdeen man has pinned importance in this weekend's Scottish Cup clash against Hearts at Tynecastle, insisting that Postecoglou's squad will need to be on it from the off. In the Scottish Daily Express, Nicholas said, "I think tackling Hearts this weekend is the biggest threat to Celtic's treble hopes. Ange Postecoglou's side already have the League Cup in the cabinet, and I believe the league is already done and dusted. Even if Celtic were to lose at home on Wednesday to Hearts, I still can't see Rangers catching them. But the Scottish Cup tie with Hearts is the most intriguing of them all. If Celtic can get through, then they will see the treble in their sights, although as long as Rangers remain in the competition, they will also fancy their chances of going all the way. Ange will be desperate to join the list of Celtic managers who have lifted a treble, especially as he just missed out on it last season. You feel that Hearts are the type of team who on occasion can pull off a big result against Celtic or Rangers. The next two games are massive in the league and more so in the Cup. I'm not being disrespectful to Rangers here because the Old Firm games look after themselves, but the fact that they face Hearts in the Cup makes it their biggest hurdle to date. I know Celtic beat St Mirren at the weekend, but you could see there was still a vulnerability there, especially in the first half, before Stephen Robinson's side went down to 10 men. You saw that with Big Ange with his substitutions. St Mirren proved a point that you can get at Celtic. I'm expecting something similar against Hearts. I expect Hearts to go full out. I think it will be physical, and it could be a cold and unwelcoming night, which could level things a bit. Robbie Neilson has done a great job at Hearts, and quite rightly has received a lot of plaudits. They are going to finish third in the league, but they will be desperate for silverware. These next two games will definitely be two tremendous tests for Celtic. I wouldn't be surprised if Hearts were to nick a point in midweek, and in the cup tie I could see it going to extra time and Celtic just squeezing through. By Aidan Smith. Glasgow Times, recorded on Tuesday, 7th of March 2023. Sport. Philip Helander transfer latest as Rangers exit to Malmo gathers pace. By Aidan Smith, Digital Sport Audience and Engagement Editor. Malmo Director of Sport Daniel Andersson added to speculation linking the Swedish outfit with a return transfer for Philip Helander. The Ibrox defender has had a brutal last 2 years as he suffered a nasty foot injury during a pre-season camp in Portugal. Helander arrived in Glasgow from Serie A side Bologna, but he has played just 60 games since and missed over 100 due to his injury woes. Rangers boss Michael Beale recently challenged Helander to get back to full fitness, but with his contract expiring in the summer, time is running out. Now Malmo have now opened the door to a possible return for the defender, with Andersson commenting on recent speculation. He told Football Scanlon, "We have had little contact during these years, but we'll see how the situation is. He's still quite young. Like I said, we'll see. We keep in touch with all interesting old Malmo players." Beale spoke recently in his defender saying, "Listen, if the Phil Helander I know can get himself back, then he's a big asset to Rangers. He's had 2 horrible years of injuries. I've not been in the building when he's had them, but at 29 I don't think Phil Helander is done. Meanwhile, Michael Beale insists periods of discontent among the fans was always going to be part of life at Rangers as he looks to end the season on a high. A cloud of negativity descended over Ibrox following the 2-1 Viaplay Cup final defeat by Celtic at Hampden Park on February 26, thickened by the fact that the Light Blues trail their old firm rivals by 9 points at the top of the table, with the title heading again for Parkhead. After kick-off in the 3-1 cinch Premiership win over Kilmarnock at Ibrox on Saturday, a section of the Gers support held up a banner aimed at the board which read, "After 55 titles, you took your eye off the ball. Time for change." The message received a round of applause from the stands. The cup final setback was Beale's first defeat as Gers boss in 15 games, and ahead of the trip to Easter Road to play Hibernian on Wednesday night. When asked if the banner aimed at the hierarchy was a concern, the former Rangers assistant coach said, "It is not. The fans are entitled to make their feelings known. They support the team at other times fantastically. They pay their money and they come. We could be a lot worse off without our fans. I would like for us to be all together, but I understand that at times there is going to be discontent. When we lose a cup final in the way that we played, I think in the days after you're going to see a reaction from the fans. It's important that you see a reaction from the players in the pitch, and I thought certainly in the first half, but for the majority of the game at the weekend we got that, and that's all my players can do. I've got to try and keep all that away from them. That's my job. I can't really control the other things. It's a heavy shirt at times, but it's a great opportunity to play for our club, and with it comes great expectation. They are aware of that. We've spoken about it and they're massively disappointed as well, but we have to move forward. There is a lot to play for. We need to win as many of these next 13-14 games as we can. We want to retain the Scottish Cup, and we can only take care of Rangers, and outside of one game we have been doing that. I said before when I came in my job was to settle everything down. We did that for a number of weeks and played poorly in one game and everything's exploded, but that's fine. I was aware that there was going to be some tough days. By Aidan Smith. Glasgow Times recorded on Tuesday 7th of March 2023. Sport. Jota and his brush with the linesman during Celtic's remontada. By Liam Bryce. He makes a fair point, does Jota. Why would you think it wasn't going to be our day, he asks in the wake of Celtic's 5-1 victory at St Mirren. Even 1-0 down on one of their more troublesome away trips, it felt like their hosts were 1,000 miles away from claiming a second famous result against the reigning Premiership champions this season. Perhaps the biggest compliment you can pay Ange Postecoglou and his team is that, watching them week on week, there's a distinct absence of jeopardy. Charles Dunn's red card shortly before the interval contributed to that, obviously, and within 10 second half minutes, the scoreline had been turned on its head. I think it depends on your approach, Jota said. Of course, the red card changed things in the match, but our approach remained the same. It was the same from the beginning. We knew how difficult the match was going to be, and we knew exactly what to do. There are different times of the game and different things happening, but we had to adapt. I think we did that pretty well. In the second half, we knew the game would be more open, and we just had to take our chances. We tried to play our game, even before the red card. It was a bit unlucky we didn't manage to score, but after that moment the game opened up a bit and we just had to take our chances, and that's what we managed to do. In the end we did it really well. An underappreciated facet of Celtic's success under Postecoglou is a willingness to get their hands dirty on the rare occasion they do find themselves in a sticky situation. There was nothing pretty about their first 2 goals in Paisley, albeit Jota did very well to scramble the ball past Trevor Carson from close range for the equaliser. I was saying to the guys afterwards, I couldn't remember what happened, the Portuguese winger said. I know someone crossed and I ended up on the floor. I normally remember straight away, but I had to go and check it again later. Have I scored a scruffier goal? Oh yeah, but in my opinion every goal was a beautiful goal. As long as the ball goes into the net, then I'm happy. There was certainly no doubting Jota's joy afterwards. The 23-year-old immediately set off down the touchline, even giving the linesman an excited slap on the back as he went. The assistant didn't say anything to me, but I was just pushing everyone to go as fast as possible to celebrate, he explained. I maybe got overexcited because we wanted to do the remontada, brackets, comeback, close brackets, as they say in Spain. I just wanted to go as fast as I could, and when that happens, you're in the flow zone. It doesn't matter who's there, it could be the other coach, but I just want to go as fast as I can, brackets, to restart the match, close brackets. From there, it felt inevitable St Mirren's grasping a point would be broken, and so followed goals from Alistair Johnson, Liel Abada, Matt O'Reilly, and Oh Hyun Gyu. Toiling away against 10 men can be tricky, especially against a side as dogged and disciplined as St Mirren. They tend not to give much away in their own patch, and it would be easy for frustration to creep in when met with that wall of black shirts. But Celtic's approach was calculated, and after Johnson smuggled in the second, Saints' shoulders began to sag as the visitors slipped into their stride. There are 2 points here, Jota explained. Firstly, we trust each other. Secondly, we know exactly what to do according to our way of playing and Angie's vision. Everyone knows exactly what is required on the pitch, and the spaces and opportunities will be there as long as we make the runs. If we keep doing our stuff, we will create chances. That's happening in every game, and then it's up to us to score. The result was the perfect way for Celtic to slip into another important week. They face Hearts twice in a matter of days. The Jambos come to Parkhead in Premiership duty this Wednesday night, before it's up to Tynecastle on Saturday for the tie of the round among the Scottish Cup quarter-finals. Postecoglou must surely drill the importance of day-to-day focus in his players, because when asked about the significance of such weeks, they tend to deliver the same answer. Even with the prospect of yet another treble looming large, it's only ever about the next day with this Celtic side. It's an important week, but the philosophy of this club is we think game to game, day after day, Jota said. We don't even think about the next game. It's the next day of training. There's no point in us looking to the future when we're still in the present. Let's try to enjoy these beautiful times as much as we can, because we can't take it for granted. By Liam Bryce. Glasgow Times, recorded on Tuesday, 7th of March 2023. Sport. Michael Beale makes 100% call ahead of Rangers rebuild. By Christopher Jack, senior Rangers writer. Michael Beale insists he can return Rangers to the top of the Scottish game in one more transfer window as he gears up for a summer of change at Ibrox. Supporters questioned the direction of the club on and off the park during the win over Kilmarnock on Saturday, as a banner from the Union Bears claimed it was time for change following the failure to win the last 2 Premiership titles. Beale made his first signings as boss with the acquisitions of Todd Cantwell and Nicholas Raskin during the January window, but was left empty-handed at Hampden as Celtic took a step towards another treble with victory in the Viaplay Cup final. Beale issued a defiant answer of 100% when asked if he could get Rangers back to where it needs to be after the summer, and is confident he's on track to deliver silverware sooner rather than later. Beale said, "I back the people I work with, and I believe in this club and the work. We're going to go on. There's work to be done, but I 100% believe in it. When I came back in, did I feel everything was going to be perfect between the back end of November and May? No. But in my first year as a manager, what was I investing in? The future. I believe in it, and where I'm taking it, and the people I'm going to go on that journey with. I don't see it as anything other than me being confident going forward. Am I slightly more aware now? Yes, just because I'm sat in the seat. But has it made me any less confident? No. You can only live every day. I can't fast forward 3 months. I'm excited by this challenge, as you can tell from my body language." Beale will have to make decisions on the futures of a handful of out-of-contract players in the coming weeks, as he counts down to the chance to make more significant changes at Ibrox. Rangers remain 9 points adrift of their Old Firm rivals ahead of the clash with Hibernian on Wednesday night, and have a Scottish Cup quarter-final against Wraith Rovers on the horizon. Beale dismissed suggestions that Rangers took their eye off the ball after winning a 55th title 2 years ago, and, when asked if fans should be excited for the future, the Englishman said, "No, what they should do is, I know at this moment in time there's a little bit of lack of faith, but if I could say one thing to them, it's, stick with us. We're doing everything we can and believe in where we're going. I'm strong in my conviction that we'll go there, and history will determine whether I'm right or not." By Christopher Jack. Glasgow Times, recorded on Tuesday, 7th of March 2023. Sport. Rangers hero Ali McCoist lands Pundit of the Year award. By Aidan Smith, Digital Sport Audience and Engagement Editor. He was used to lifting trophies as a player, and now Ali McCoist is tasting silverware as a pundit. The Rangers and Scotland hero last night picked up the Pundit of the Year award, which is awarded by the Sports Journalists Association. McCoist was rewarded for his work due to his tone, expertise and delivery while working with the likes of TalkSport, BT Sport, ITV and Sky Sports. Among the commendations was a note of McCoist's ability to talk sense in an amusing way. He is funny, informed and a joy to listen to. He enriches without excess or reverence. After picking up his award, McCoy said, "In all seriousness, I did not expect to be standing here winning this award. Looking at the competition was fierce. I don't think Roy Keane has had a worse 48 hours, to be fair to him. I love my job. I'm the luckiest man alive. I really am." Rangers centre forward, Scotland centre forward, and now working with the guys at TalkSport and ITV. I love every minute of it. I didn't think my night could get any better after meeting Rob Burrow and his family. I was a big pal of Doddy Weir's, as you know, and those two guys epitomise the spirit of the human being. It's fantastic. The previous winners of this honour at the SJA British Sports Journalism Awards include Emma Hayes, Michael Holding, Gary Neville and Osei Omenioro. Up for the award this year were Alan Shearer, BBC Sport, Alex Scott, BBC Sport, Ali McCoy, TalkSport, Chris Sutton, BBC Radio 5 Live, David Coulthard, Whisper, Ian Wright, ITV Sport, Jason Bell, Sky Sports, John Wilkin, BBC Sport, Nasser Hussain, Sky Sports, and Roy Keane, ITV Sport / Sky Sports. By Aidan Smith. Glasgow Times, recorded on Tuesday, 7th of March 2023. Sport. The pyro debate. Fans using private areas and child mules to get pyro into games. By Matthew Lindsay, chief football writer. Fans are going to extraordinary lengths to smuggle illegal pyrotechnics into stadiums by concealing them around their private parts and even using children as mules. It has been revealed following another alarming incident in Scottish football. A smoke bomb that was hurled onto the pitch by an Aberdeen supporter missed Pittodrie midfielder Ryan Duncan by a matter of inches during a Cinch Premiership match at Tannadice on Saturday evening. Jim Goodwin, the Dundee United manager, who was also pelted with coins, appealed to clubs to start using CCTV footage to identify and punish the culprits before something serious happens in the immediate aftermath of the game. Aberdeen issued a statement on Sunday evening revealing they were working with both United and Police Scotland to find the individuals responsible for the missiles which were thrown and condemning their actions. The Tannadice match came just 6 days after dozens of flares, strobes, smoke canisters and rockets were set off by followers of Celtic and Rangers both before and during the Viaplay Cup final at Hampden. James Dornan, the SNP MSP for Glasgow Cathcart, last week called for the power to award clubs the safety certificates they need to operate their stadiums taken away from councils and given to the Scottish Parliament so that increased pressure can be applied. Ken Scott, the head of inspectorate at the Sports Ground Safety Authority, the SGSA, met with representatives from Holyrood, COSLA and local authorities from across the country in Glasgow last week, and safety certificates were discussed. Scott, the lead author of the Definitive Guide to Safety at Sports Grounds document which the SGSA publishes, admitted the capacity of a stadium could potentially be reduced if there are persistent problems with pyrotechnics. However, he emphasised the difficulties which both clubs and the police have in preventing devices from being taken into grounds and set off by supporters, and stressed he would prefer to see a different approach taken. There are many reasons why pyrotechnics should not be within a country mile of a football ground, he said. They burn at high temperatures, they can start a fire, and they have the ability to cause appalling injuries. But I'm all for education and persuasion rather than prescription. Education and persuasion have had a bit of an impact in England. People are realising there are better ways of showing their support for their team than a blue, red or green pyrotechnic device. Thankfully, fans are listening. If fans don't listen, there needs to be a sanction, punitive measures which can be imposed. This is where the safety certificate comes into play. The whole purpose of a safety certificate is to set a safe capacity. It sets a safe capacity against the risks which are inherent or apparent within that venue. If the lighting and discharge of pyrotechnics was an issue at a certain ground, the certifying local authority could reduce the safe capacity down to a level which they thought the club's security team was able to manage. That would help them to stop people getting pyrotechnic devices into the ground in the first place. It would also help them identify who the people using them are, take the necessary action to catch them in possession, evict them from the ground and have them arrested. But I would prefer not to do that because I'm a big supporter of fan engagement. It's better to convince the fans of the risks. By and large, fans are listening. The number of pyrotechnic devices which are lit inside a ground is very small in comparison with the crowd size. There is sufficient power there already, and I don't think handing it over to government would improve it. I think we need education of the risks and persuasion, coupled with local authorities making sure clubs are aware of the need to prevent pyrotechnics coming in. Scott added, The difficulty lies in stopping pyrotechnics from getting inside a football ground. They are fairly small now and are reasonably easy to be secreted about the body, particularly if people conceal them in private areas. No matter how good the level of searching, if you're determined to get these things inside, it is possible. That makes it extremely difficult and challenging for the clubs themselves to control. That is the key issue. There was a big display of pyrotechnics at the cup final. There were 50,000 people inside the stadium. That's an awful lot of people who could be impacted, but that's an awful lot of people to search. There are dogs which can detect the black powder which is inside these things, but they are more of a deterrent. I'm not an expert, but I'm told their sense of smell diminishes very quickly. They might find one, but they can't continue for an hour before kick-off. The chances of them detecting all of the pyrotechnics being brought in is very slim. People also go to extraordinary lengths to get pyrotechnics into matches. They have hidden them inside baguettes. They often put them inside the hood of a child's jacket because they know not many grounds search children. They use kids as mules to get these things in. If you put them down the front of your trousers, nobody's going to search you there for obvious reasons. If people are determined to get them in, then they can do it. I think people have to be educated about the risks of pyrotechnics. If they still insist on using them, then sorry, but they have to feel the full force of the law. By Matthew Lindsay.
From Glasgow Evening Times, Wednesday the 8th of March 2023, from the news section. Glasgow Schools Survey reveals concerns about vaping and underage sex. By Anne Fotheringham. Results from a hard-hitting survey which asks Glasgow pupils about sex, drugs and mental health have been published. The questionnaire, which caused a furore last year when it was revealed it would include explicit questions, found that pupils had engaged in sexual intercourse from as young as 13. Pupils in fourth year were also asked to complete a substance use survey, but as only 14% of total roll participated, it advised that results should be treated with caution. However, a Glasgow City Council spokesperson said there was a growing concern around vaping. The survey results showed that pupils 28% have tried vaping than smoking, 18%. A spokesperson added, although we recognise appropriate usage by adults, there is a growing concern around increasing numbers of young people vaping. In partnership with NHS Health Improvement colleagues, training and resources shared with school staff about issues related to vaping for teaching and learning purposes have improved. One of the most stark statistics in the survey revealed almost a third, 27% of pupils said they sometimes go to bed or to school hungry. A council spokesperson said, schools are very good at knowing their community and taking the appropriate steps to target the needs of their families. A number of our schools will provide support via parent councils and food banks. We also have Glasgow's holiday food programme during school holidays to help support families when schools are closed. A large percentage of our families also qualify for free school meals. This is over and above the universal offer for all P1 to P5 in the city. 51% of pupils took part in the survey, which is equivalent to 23,323 out of the potential 45,522 P5 to S6 pupils. When asked about relationships, 10% of S4 to S6 pupils said they had sexual intercourse. Disturbingly, 15% of those said they were under 13 or 13 when they first had intercourse. 20% were 14, while 27% were 15. 30% of P5 to S6 pupils had been bullied in the last year, with 80% of it taking place at school. Councillor Christine Cannon, City Conveyor for Education, Communities and Equalities, said, it is important that we listen to young people and give them a voice to air their views and speak about difficulties they have in their lives so that we can then design services to support them. She added, I hope that publication of our responses brings to a close all the misinformation and scaremongering that has been circulated last year, which could have resulted in data that is not truly reflective of our young people. The Health and Wellbeing Census is due to be presented to councillors sitting on the Education, Skills and Early Years City Policy Committee on March 9th. And that article was by Anne Fotheringham. From Glasgow Evening Times, Wednesday the 8th of March 2023, from the news section. son of Glasgow clan fan, wins raffle prize at game honouring his memory. By Rebecca Newlands. The stars were aligned for an ice hockey fan who has won a huge prize on the same night. He and other fans honoured his late dad's memory. Al McGurley attended Glasgow clan games every week since the club was formed in 2010, until his death last week at the age of 64. And after 3,000 fans applauded for Al at Saturday's game against the Fife Flyers, Al's family are convinced that he was with them in spirit that night. Not only did the clan beat the Flyers 4-2, but Al's son Richard was announced as the winner of their 50-50 prize draw, which fans enter every week with hope of winning. Richard took home £1,731.50, which is one of the biggest amounts ever. He said, "In all the years I've been going to hockey with my dad, we've never won a 50-50 draw. We would buy tickets every week, and it was a running joke between us. We never even got close to winning." Winning the 50-50 draw prize on the same night as the fans applauded my dad was an unbelievable coincidence. It was surreal. And if my dad had a hand in bringing me some luck, then I'd want to thank him for that. Al's wife, Jill, who he met on a blind date before a clan game 8 years ago, was moved by the club and fans' gesture for her late husband. After Al's other beloved sports team Partick Thistle and American Hockey League side Buffalo Sabres also won their weekend games, Jill is convinced that it was all down to fate. She said, "Last Saturday was a very emotional night for all the family, and minutes applause was a wonderful gesture from fans who organised it and the club who announced it was happening beforehand. It was very touching to see how well liked Al was and how much he was respected by fans. With everything that happened with Al's favourite sports team winning and Richard winning the 50-50 draw, the stars were certainly aligned for Al, and he would have been well chuffed." Fellow supporters shared their thoughts after it was announced that Richard had won the draw. Emma Anderson posted on Facebook, "No such thing as coincidence, totally meant to be." Susan Cassidy added, "That was fate. Your dad was with you tonight. Well done." And Sam Curry posted, "Absolutely amazing. Had a tear in my eye. Definitely watching down on all of you." Gareth Chalmer, managing director of Braehead Arena, said everyone at the clan was saddened to hear of Al's passing. "He was definitely one of our super fans, and he'll be missed by everyone involved with the clan and Braehead Arena. And it's probably the first time fans were pleased not to win the 50-50 draw, and the prize went to Richard." And that article was by Rebecca Newlands.
Glasgow Evening Times on the 9th of March and the sports section. Alfredo Morelos not happy Rangers admission from Michael Beale by Ewan Payton. Michael Beale has admitted that Alfredo Morelos is not happy to be sat on the Rangers bench. In the last two matches against Kilmarnock and Hibs, Antonio Colac has led the line for Beale's side. Both games resulted in comfortable victories with 3-1 and 4-1 scorelines respectively. Colac netted a deadly double at Easter Road last night, showing his lethal touch in front of the goal. A James Tavernier penalty and a neat finish from Fashion Shakala rounded off the scoring. And speaking to BBC, Beale revealed that his star man Morelos has not been pleased playing a lesser role in the team. He said, "I thought that Antonio was really good tonight as well. I'm seeing a fit Antonio now. I thought he was brilliant at the weekend. He didn't score, but he made up for it with a couple of goals tonight. And now the competition's there, you know." Alfredo's not happy to be out of the team, but it's fair and right that when you know someone plays and they play well, they keep the shirt. "And now I have an issue that I have a few players waiting on the sidelines, and that's what good squads have." The Englishman was then asked about Fashion Sakala's performance. The Zambian netted another goal as the attacker continued his recent run of form. Beale added, "He's still a young man and obviously he's getting used to Scottish football. Even still now, I know he's been here a little while, but he's still getting used to the hustle and bustle bit and the demands. And he was a striker when we signed him, and he's been shifted out wide at different times. The system suits him at the moment, and certainly away from home when teams came after us. It opens up space, and in every game he has a chance to score or get an assist. He doesn't always get them, but he's working away, and on nights like tonight, I think at times he was unplayable with his pace and direct play. That was by Ewan Payton. The Glasgow Evening Times on the 9th of March and the sports section. Hibs in emotional sunshine on Leith, Ron Gordon tribute versus Rangers by Ewan Payton. This is the moment the Hibs fans paid a fitting tribute to the late former chairman Ron Gordon last night. The Hibs faithful belted out an emotional rendition of the club's anthem, Sunshine on Leith, before their premiership match with Rangers at Easter Road. It was sadly announced last month that the club's majority shareholder had passed away aged 68. The American businessman had been receiving treatment for cancer for around 1 year. On the pitch, Lee Johnson's men could do little to keep Rangers at bay. Michael Beale's side ran out comfortable 4-1 winners in the capital. However, prior to the game, the Hibs man did their club proudly. Asked to arrive inside the stadium at least 15 minutes before kickoff, the stage was theirs to show their appreciation for the club's former owner. Hibs players wore a special warm-up t-shirt that read, "May the sunshine of Leith shine on you always, Ron," on the front, and R.I.P. Ronald J. Gordon, August 1954 to February 2023 on the back. During the match, Hibs players wore the number 68 on their shorts as a further mark of respect. They are also wearing a black armband as a mark of remembrance for Gordon too. And Hibs supporters sang their hearts out with an emotional version of the Proclaimers' famous song. A photo compilation of Gordon as Hibs chairman was shown on the large screens inside the stadium too. On the field, as stated, it was mainly one-way traffic, despite the hosts leading early doors. Rangers stormed back to claim a straightforward 4-1 victory at Easter Road, with James Tavernier, Fashion Sakala and Antonio Kolak netting the goals, with the latter hitting a brace. It was a comfortable evening for Beale and his team in the end, and the Englishman feels his players could have scored 8 goals. He said it was very equal to the last time we were in Edinburgh across the city. The energy was right from the first minute. I thought the front three pressed really well, the midfield backed it up behind, and the one poor moment on the night was how we defended the set play. Our organisation was wrong for the first goal, but after that, and even before that, I thought some of our play was good. Certainly, after that, we were excellent. We scored 4 and possibly should have scored double that, and that is not being disrespectful. We missed big chances tonight. Had some fantastic play, and the energy was good. That all comes from the out-of-possession stuff, really. And that was by Ewan Payton. The Glasgow Evening Times on the 9th of March and the sports section. Michael Beale makes Rangers Jekyll and Hyde call after Hibernian win by Christopher Jack. Michael Beale has challenged Rangers to eradicate the Jekyll and Hyde performances from their Premiership form after a stunning win over Hibernian. The Englishman maintained his unbeaten league run as boss thanks to a 4-1 victory that was secured through a James Tavernier penalty, brace from Antonio Kolak and second-half Fashion Sakala strike. Rangers fell behind inside 10 minutes as Connor Goldson converted into his own net, but that was as good as it got for Lee Johnson, as his side were outplayed and outclassed in an entertaining affair at Easter Road. And Beale is pleased with the direction that Rangers are heading in, despite seeing his Premiership efforts fail to erode any of the 9-point deficit to Old Firm rival Celtic in recent weeks. Beale said, "The league form has been absolutely fantastic. We shouldn't have a problem with belief, we just don't want the Jekyll and Hyde performances. Now we're getting people fit. John Sutar and Ridvan played 45 minutes yesterday, so they're available from the weekend. Rabbi Matondo is back available, and you can see, although Enos Hagi has been out for a year, he's slowly getting back in and around the group. There's a lot of competition. People are playing for their futures and for minutes right now, and happy with where we're going. I know one or two isolated moments can lead to noise on the outside, but inside the building I'm really happy. Our form in the league is excellent. All we can do is win the games in front of us. We have a huge game at the weekend. The warning is there because we weren't very good against Partick. If we aren't at our best, Wraith will give us problems, and it is a trophy we want to retain. Rangers should have won by a larger margin at Easter Roads, as a series of spurn chances in either half left Hibernian off the hook after a ragged defensive display. Beale was delighted with the midfield pairing of Ryan Jack and Nicholas Raskin, while Todd Cantwell also impressed behind the front three of Kolak, Sakala and Ryan Kent. Beale said, "Anyway from home, when teams come for us and open, Hibs tries to attack the game. If we're defensively strong and we regain the ball in interesting areas, we can punish teams." That was maybe the story of the game. Defensively, as impressive as we were with the ball, it all came off the work ethic of the whole team. The whole outfield players pressing, running and moving together. We won a lot of the duels in the game and it left Hibs a little bit vulnerable. We could have been more ruthless, but in a professional game, when you score 4 goals away from home, you shouldn't be moaning. You should be happy your team has scored that many. That was by Christopher Jack. The Glasgow Evening Times on the 9th of March and the sports section. Robbie Neilson issues fresh Celtic red card incident pop by Ewan Payton. Robbie Neilson was last night left reeling over the decision not to send Alexander Bernabai off in Hearts' 3-1 loss to Celtic. Ange Postecoglou's team ran out comfortable winners in the end at Parkhead, although the Australian admitted his team wasn't at their best. Josh Ginnelly had the Jambos in front in Glasgow's East End. However, goals from Dacian Mida, Kyogo and Seed Haskabanovic sealed all 3 points for the Scottish champions. It was a poor tackle from Bernabai that caught the attention of Hearts boss Neilson, though. The Hoops left back put a rash challenge in on Natty Atkinson during the first half, with the defender then requiring medical treatment. Alan Muir took no action and play continued after VAR official Nick Walsh reviewed it. This sparked an initial angry response from Neilson. He said, "I thought it was a shambles, the whole thing." I'm sure Alan will see it tonight and be disappointed by his own decision, and secondly, that he wasn't asked to go and look at the VAR screen, because I think he goes and he sees it, it's maybe a different decision and a different outcome. Usually when you come to Parkhead, you need decapitation before they get a red card against them. It wasn't to be today, but it was nearly a leg off. Now, a second interview with the Hearts manager has emerged. The 42-year-old was clearly dismayed as to how the Celtic player escaped with no punishment whatsoever. He told Sky Sports, "We have the decision for a potential red card. I think the referee will look back and be pretty disappointed with himself. Those are things, if that goes your way, changes the game. You come here and it's very difficult to get these decisions. It's always the same. They have a big 60,000 people here. It takes a lot of strength to give that decision. The key thing, the disappointing thing, it's the first time I've ever seen a referee not book someone, but it goes to a VAR review for a red card for serious foul play. As soon as it goes to that, it's got to be a yellow card. I know he can't go back on it, but he's 10 yards away. He's got to see it." That was by Ewan Payton. The Glasgow Evening Times on the 9th of March in the sports section. Ryan Kent Rangers penalty receives unanimous BBC pundit verdict by Ewan Payton. Rangers were on easy street last night as they made light work of Hibs in the capital. Michael Beale's side comfortably defeated the Easter Road side 4-1 thanks to goals from James Tavernier, Fashion Sakala and a double from Antonio Kolak. However, it was far from the start that the Light Blues would have been hoping for. Lee Johnson's men took the lead after 10 minutes with Conor Golson netting an own goal. The response from the Ibrox club was testament to the work Beale has put in on the training field though. Almost immediately after, positive play by Sakala and Ryan Kent up the wing saw Rangers awarded a penalty. Referee Don Robertson initially just gave the spot kick after CJ Egan Riley clipped the Kent as he darted inside the Hibs box. After a short VAR review and the pitch side monitor, so the penalty was given and James Tavernier tucked home. VAR drama has followed most Scottish teams since its introduction way back in October. However, pundits James McFadden and Leanne Crichton agreed that Robertson got this decision right eventually while appearing on BBC's Sports Scene. Crichton commented, "I don't think you can dispute it too much. You need to credit the positive play from Sakala, and Ryan Kent does what he does often and chops back inside. Egan Riley commits to the challenge, gets it wrong and catches him. There isn't anywhere else that he, Kent, can plant his foot, and Don Robertson goes over the screen to confirm it." McFadden added, "I think it's a bit sloppy." Lee Johnson talks about composure, and that's a moment he'll be speaking about, going to ground in the box. Ryan Kent kind of overran it, and he gave him a way out because when he cuts back, he's not getting back as sharp. It was a good finish from James Tavernier, which we are used to seeing. And that was by Ewan Payton. The Herald on the 7th of March and the Arts and Ents section. Scottish broadcaster STV feels pressure from advertising slowdown by Scott Wright. Shares in STV were down more than 2.5% in early trading this morning after the broadcaster signalled a gloomy near-term outlook for the advertising market. Glasgow-based company reported that total advertising revenue had fallen by 2% to £110 million for the year to December 31 amid the uncertain economic climate, and had subsequently fallen by 15% in the first quarter of 2023. Scottish advertising is expected to be down 20-25% in the first quarter, or to flat to slightly up when Scottish Government spend is excluded, while total advertising revenue is forecast to be down 10-15% in April, STV said. The broadcaster reported that adjusted operating profits were up 2% at £25.8 million in 2022. But total group revenue dropped by 5% to £137.8 million compared with 2021, with a decline attributed to the decrease in total advertising revenue and the timing of production deliveries. However, STV underlined the prospects for productions business. STV Studios, which has won 30 new commissions and 11 returning series, and it declared 2023 was shaping up to be a breakthrough year for the studios division, with £50 million of commissions already secured for delivery. Those include 3 major new returnable drama series currently in production for Apple, BBC and Channel 4. STV also highlighted the continuing expansion of its digital offer. Registered users of the STV player increased by 17% in 2022 to 4.9 million, with that number growing to more than 5 million in the first quarter of this year. STV Chief Executive Simon Pitts told the Herald this morning, "Of course, we are very mindful of the ongoing economic uncertainty. We are not immune from it going into 2023. You see that our total advertising revenues were down last year, but only by 2% to our second highest ever, in fact, and they were still comfortably ahead of the pre-COVID year of 2019. Q1 2023 advertising is down, but even then we are seeing some encouraging signs, with Scottish SME advertising slightly up in the first quarter, digital advertising slightly up, and around 20% ahead, and of course we have been here many times before. We have seen the advertising market bouncing back quickly from any economic shocks because TV advertising, in our view, remains the most effective way of building a brand." That was by Scott Wright. Glasgow Evening Times on the 9th of March and the sports section. Scottish Cup semi-final draw. When is it? TV channel and live stream by Ewan Payton. There was an action-packed midweek card in the Premiership. However, it's now time for the Scottish Cup to take centre stage for the entirety of the weekend. It's time for the quarter-final stage of the competition as the last 8 get ready to battle it out for a spot at Hampden next month. All 4 matches will be broadcast live on TV over the course of Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday. Every team remaining in the tournament can begin to dream of lifting the famous old trophy. It all starts with Inverness versus Kilmarnock on Friday evening. Derek McInnes' team have already played a semi-final at Hampden this season. They will be aiming to book a quick-fire return by defeating their championship opponents. It's then a powder keg fixture between Hearts and Celtic that's up next on Saturday lunchtime. The sides met on Wednesday with Ange Postecoglou's team running out 3-1 winners on league business. Cup holders Rangers will then entertain Wraith Rovers on Sunday afternoon at Ibrox. It's Michael Beale's last realistic chance of gaining silverware this season, so the Light Blues will be doing all they can to ensure their progression to the semis. And it all ends with Falkirk versus Ayr United on Monday night live on BBC. When is the Scottish Cup semi-final draw? The Scottish Cup semi-final draw will take place on Monday, March 13. It will occur following the conclusion of Falkirk versus Ayr United. Kick-off of the game is 7:45pm. Is the Scottish Cup draw on TV and can I watch it? Yes, thankfully the draw will be broadcast live on TV. It will be shown on BBC Scotland in the aftermath of the final last 8 tie between Falkirk and Ayr. It will also be available to live stream online via the BBC iPlayer. The start time for the draw will depend on if Falkirk and Ayr United finishes after 90 minutes or not. Who is in the hat for the semi-finals? Inverness or Kilmarnock, Hearts or Celtic, Rangers or Wraith Rovers, Falkirk or Ayr United. When will the semi-final ties be played? The 2 ties will be played at the end of April at Hampden. One game will take place on Sunday, April 29, while the second match on Sunday, April 30. Kick-off times and TV details will be announced in the coming days. That was by Ewan Payton.
From the Glasgow Times, Monday, the 13th of March, 2023. Sports section. Kieran Tierney transfer latest as Arsenal defender giving good fit reminder. By Aidan Smith, Sports Audience and Engagement Editor. John Barnes believes Newcastle could be the perfect fit for Kieran Tierney, but he's urged the Scotland international to think twice about leaving Arsenal. The former Celtic defender struggled for game time under Mikel Arteta at the Gunners this season, after Alexander Shinchenko arrived at the club from Manchester City. With this in mind, speculation has been surrounding Tierney, and he has been linked with a transfer to Newcastle in the summer. On a possible move for the Scot, Barnes told Bonus Code Bets, "I think Newcastle is a good fit for anyone. They're a progressive team, they're playing really well, and they're looking to go forward. They're not looking to buy superstar players just because they've got lots of money." Kieran Tierney's a good player who'll definitely be a good fit for Newcastle, but he's also a good fit for Arsenal. But he's an Arsenal player, and Arsenal is a good fit for him. Of course, they have Zinchenko, who can play as a left-sided midfielder, and he can play that position as well. I don't see why at this particular point in time he'd want to leave Arsenal. Meanwhile, Arteta hailed Leandro Trossard's football intelligence as he set up all 3 goals as Arsenal restored their 5-point cushion at the top of the Premier League with a 3-0 win at Fulham. The 28-year-old joined Arsenal in January from Brighton and has shone for the Gunners, helping to compensate for the injuries to forwards Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah. Trossard's delivery at Craven Cottage was exceptional, with his first assist coming in the 21st minute as picked out Gabriel Magalhaes from a corner for the Brazilian to nod home. Gabriel Martinelli added a second 5 minutes later, with Martin Odegaard all but wrapping up the 3 points for the visitors just before half-time. Arteta singled out Trossard's contribution. He got 3 assists and could have scored 2. I think he was really impressive, Arteta said. Not only that, he had an injury 3 days ago, which could have taken a week or another 10 days, but he was really willing to come back early, and the doctors and medical staff did a lot of good work. It makes a big difference in the team. We needed him today, and his contribution was superb. It's football intelligence. He's really clever to understand straight away what we want, what's required. He's executed it really well. That article was by Aidan Smith. From the Glasgow Times, Monday, the 13th of March, 2023. Sports section. Celtic legend Martin O'Neill's son-in-law wins an Oscar, by Aidan MacDonald, newswriter. Celtic legend Martin O'Neill's son-in-law, James Friend, has won an Oscar for Best Cinematography for his work at the film All Quiet on the Western Front. The Englishman was rewarded for his work on the picture, which follows a German teenager and his classmates as they enlist in the army and go to fight in World War I. It was a successful night all round in the film, as it also tasted victory in the Best International Feature Film, Best Original Score, Best Production Design categories. The movie was nominated for Best Picture, but beaten by Everything Everywhere all at once. O'Neill had previously expressed his delight at the news on social media, tweeting, "What a wonderful day. Huge congratulations to my son-in-law, James Friend, for his cinematography Oscar nomination for his superb work on All Quiet on the Western Front on Netflix. Brilliant film and brilliant filmmaking. Well done to everyone involved." Other awards in the night saw Brendan Fraser win Best Actor for his portrayal in The Whale. Michelle Yeoh take him the Best Actress award for her performance in Everything Everywhere all at once. Ke Wan won Best Supporting Actor for his work in the same movie, and Jamie Lee Curtis also winning the equivalent award for her performance in the film. That article was by Aidan MacDonald. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 13th of March, 2023. Sports section. Digitised Scottish Football Association archives reveal VAR protests are tame compared to 1880s stooshies. By Matthew Lindsay, Chief Football Writer. Controversies over refereeing decisions and complaints to the Scottish Football Association about the calls made by match officials in high-profile games have reached record levels since VAR was introduced into this country back in October. Or have they? The digitisation of the Scottish Football Association archives, a project which is being carried out by staff at the Scottish Football Museum as part of the governing body's 150th anniversary celebrations, has shown that unhappiness over the displays of our much maligned whistlers and protests to their superiors are nothing new. In fact, Richard McBrearty, the museum curator, and his colleagues have discovered the outcries which have erupted in recent months over offside, penalty kick and red card rulings are tame in comparison with the stooshies that broke out back in the 1880s. People talk about the controversy in the game today with VAR, said McBrearty, but my goodness, to be on the SFA committee in the 1880s would have been a thankless task. A lot of it is actually quite amusing. The Scottish Cup was the big competition at that time. If you got knocked out of that in the early rounds, it was bad for morale and prestige, and financially as well. Looking through the minute books, there's a page after page of protests. Whenever a club got knocked out, that wasn't the end of it. They immediately protested to say it was unfair. Their complaints were frequent and wide-ranging. They would say the pitch dimensions didn't meet the minimum requirements. A couple of times the SFA had to go out and measure the pitches afterwards to double-check. They would report back and say, "Yeah, you're right actually," and the game would be replayed. He added there are complaints about rough play. In those days, there were umpires and a referee. The umpires were on the pitch, one in one half of the field, the other in the other half. But they were quite biased because the clubs appointed them. If you had a match between, say, Renton and Vale of Leven, Renton would appoint one umpire and Vale of Leven would appoint the other umpire. As you can imagine, their decisions could be quite biased in their half of the pitch. The umpires could get into arguments with each other. In the Scottish Cup, the referee would intervene. He would be the neutral official. If the umpires didn't agree, the referee would make the decision. Quite often, the referee would be the guy pulled in afterwards because the umpires couldn't be trusted. There were some bizarre complaints. I saw one entry which said the crossbar was too low. One team refused to play the game. Another team protested because they weren't any corner flags. The team that lost the match complained, "I thought, why did they play the game if corner flags are so important?" And the appeal was thrown out. The other big one was registrations. Teams were accused of playing players who weren't registered to them. There were a lot of squabbles about money as well. Teams were accused of paying their players in that amateur era. There were investigations into whether that was the case. It is brilliant. When you read through it, you think, what's coming next? What dispute is on the next page? What are we going to have? There were literally dozens and dozens of protests. The Scottish Football Association must have been sick to the back teeth with it all. It was a really turbulent period with lots of controversy. Not a lot has changed in the 140 years by the sound of things. The Scottish Football Association minute books from the 1880s also chronicle the rise of professionalism in English football and the impact that contentious development had on the game north of the border, not least on the fortunes of the national team. Professionalism comes down in England in 1885, Sir McBrearty, but Scotland holds out until 1893. It is quite remarkable when you look at the level of interest and sheer amount of information gathered about professionalism in the minutes. It's seen as a real threat up here. When the FA adopts professionalism, there's a flood of players across the border. That has a big impact on the game of Scotland. The Scottish Football Association keep lists of players as and when they leave Scotland to go to Bolton, Burnley, Preston North End, the early clubs that adopt professionalism. These lists are important. Effectively, they are basically blacklisting them. They can't play in Scotland. They can't play for the international team. Up until 1896, they were banned. Andy Robertson and Scott McTominay, two outstanding footballers who play for major English clubs, are a source of pride for their countrymen today. Back in 1885, they would have been castigated, seen as traitors. There was a very different mindset. The Scottish Football Association had to be seen to punish people who were taking money. They effectively picked a second-string Scotland team for years. The guys who went down to England are discounted. Scotland did really well in the internationals against England up until 1885. They mainly enjoyed victories. After the players who went down south got banned, the results were poor. That went on until 1896. The Scottish Football Association archives show that Celtic, despite only being formed in the East End of Glasgow in 1887, had become a major force in Scottish football by 1983 and were instrumental in professionalism finally being embraced. Celtic became a big club overnight, says McBrearty. They had a large fan base waiting for them, and when they were set up, they played in the Scottish Cup final in 1889, within a year or so of being formed. You can see the clubs represented on the committees as they're formed each year. What is interesting for me is that when the clubs vote to accept professionalism in 1893, the motion is put forward by the president of Celtic, John McLaughlin. It is a club that is only 6 or 7 years old, but they can see what is happening in England. They're losing players to England. There are stories of committee men going down to England to grab players before they sign for an English club, taking them back up the road. They're competing with English clubs. So Celtic had the clout in 1893 to put forward that motion, and the other clubs voted with them. Queen's Park didn't want it and famously remained amateur. The minutes show there was a passionate argument. With millions of documents to digitise, it's a long-term undertaking which will occupy McBrearty and the Scottish Football Museum historians who have received financial assistance from the National Lottery Heritage Fund as well as Museums Galleries Scotland for years to come. But fans can peruse the earliest records of the game in this country by logging on to the museum website and registering for free now. Over 5,800 pages of the first SFA minute books and around 900 pages from the Scottish Football Association annuals, which were published between 1875 to 1900, are accessible. I don't think we've got 0.1% archives, said McBrearty, but there's a good ton of stuff already. It's going to grow and grow, but there's a lot of good stuff up straight away. People will find some real nuggets of interest. There will be something here for all fans. The Scottish Football Association was formed at a meeting in Dewars Hotel in Glasgow on this day in 1873, becoming the second national association in the world in the process, and the digitisation of the records is one of a series of events to mark the occasion. The Heritage International between Scotland and England will be played at Hampden on September, and the commemorative 150th anniversary kit for it goes on sale next week. Elsewhere, the inaugural week of football, a celebration of the impact of the national game across Scotland and beyond, will take place in June between the women's and men's Scottish Cup finals, which will both be played for the first time at the National Stadium. That article was by Matthew Lindsay. From the Glasgow Times, Monday, the 13th of March 2023, Sports section. Steven Gerrard breaks managerial silence after Turkey Trabzonspor trip, by Aidan Smith, Sports Audience and Engagement Editor. Steven Gerrard has spoke out on his recent trip to Turkey, insisting the visit had nothing to do with speculation linking him to Trabzonspor. The former Rangers boss has been out of management since he was axed by Aston Villa back in October last year. Gerrard has since been linked with a number of positions, including Trabzonspor, but he has not signed on the dotted line just yet, as he keeps his options open. The Liverpool legend has now spoken out on a recent trip to Turkey, explaining that he was working with Turkish Airlines and former Brazil fullback Cafu. He wrote on Instagram, "Great few days in Istanbul with Turkish Airlines." He then posted another picture with Cafu and the Champions League trophy and said, "Great days in Istanbul with Cafu for Turkish Airlines. Fantastic city." The Champions League final is back in Istanbul this season for the first time since Liverpool's stunning victory over AC Milan in 2005. The Reds came from 3-0 down to defeat the Italian opponents via the way of penalties in one of the most memorable finals in history. Reports in Turkey have suggested that Gerrard had sit-down talks with Trabzonspor during his visit as they look to find a manager. Meanwhile, Connor Goldson hailed a winning week for Rangers as the perfect anecdote to their Viaplay Cup final pain last month. The Light Blues were left reeling after the 2-1 defeat by their old firm rival Celtic at Hampden Park last month. However, Michael Beale's side bounced back with a 3-1 home cinch Premiership win against Kilmarnock last Saturday, a 4-1 victory over Hibs at Easter Road in midweek, and a 3-0 Scottish Cup quarter-final victory over champion side Raith Rovers in Govan on Sunday. Goldson, 30, who scored his third Gers goal of the season with a header to break the deadlock against Ian Murray's side, told Rangers TV, "It's been a really good week. The week before was really disappointing. We had the challenge to bounce back from that, and we know at this football club you're expected to win games, so it's been a good week. It hasn't been easy, 2 home games and a trip to Easter Road, but we've managed to come out with 3 wins, which is important. We're in the semi-final. We need to go and make that into a final and then win this competition." That article was by Aidan Smith.
From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 13th of March 2023, from the Sports section, Scottish Cup semi-final draw as Rangers meet Celtic and Falkirk play Inverness Caley Thistle, by Ewan Payton, sports writer. Rangers and Celtic have been paired together for the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup. The Glasgow Giants will face each other at the National Stadium in the last 4 of the competition. In the other team, Falkirk will meet Inverness Caley Thistle. Both teams will be rubbing their hands at the prospect of reaching the 2022-23 Cup final. The draw was made this evening in the wake of Falkirk versus Ayr United. Inverness booked their spot at Hampden with a triumph over Kilmarnock on Friday night. Billy Mackay and Sean Welsh netted goals for the Billy Dodds side to kickstart the weekend. Celtic toppled Hearts to make the semi-finals, with Rangers victorious over Raith Rovers in the quarter-finals. The Hoops 3-0 win on Saturday was a marker for Ange Postecoglou's side. Aaron Moy got the league champions off to a flying start, while goals from Kyogo and Cameron Carter-Vickers secured the win. For Michael Beale's men, they were on easy street at home to Raith. Connor Goldson and Scott Arfield netted, while an own goal sealed the progression. Falkirk were the last team into the hat just before the draw with a dramatic 2-1 win over Ayr United. They went 1-0 down to their championship opponents, but Callum Morrison and Kai Kennedy turned the game on its head in dramatic fashion. The two ties will be played at the end of April at Hampden. One game will take place on Saturday, April the 29th, while the second match on Sunday, April the 30th. Kick-off times and TV details will be announced in the coming days. Scottish Cup semi-final draw in full. Rangers v Celtic. Falkirk v Inverness. And that report was by Ewan Payton. That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Kieran Review and to tell your friends about our service.